What's good, everybody? Welcome in to the Altitude Film Room for the first time. We are going to break down. We're going to get a little bit crunchy here. I'm Rob Trigilio. And of course, if we're going to get crunchy, if we're going to be talking game film, you got to bring in the coach, Coach Mike Sanford. Thanks for hopping in with this, Coach. I'm excited to get a little in depth here talking about the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, not because you and I haven't done any live radio before. We've done that, but just technology, doing a live stream film breakdown. It's been 7-8 weeks in the works between you and I trying to figure out the technology, how we get multiple screens going. Here we are, and I'm excited to swing hopefully a big bat and have some fun breaking down some Broncos film.
Well, of course, we know what you're talking about when we get you on the film. It was, worrying about the podcasting setup that I'm here for. But we got your little buddy right next to you, your little camera. We're going to point it right at your computer screen. So we are in the room with you, and we are going to break down some film. Now, the idea that we have here is that I think a lot of people are interested in some of the, finer details that go on. And you see some, breakdowns of film on YouTube or Twitter or X that, maybe they don't always know exactly what's going on. So we wanted to bring the coach in. We wanted to get a little bit crunchy with you. Our idea here is that we're only going to do a couple plays from each game, the biggest plays, the best plays, the plays that change the game. Coach is going to pick a couple of them out, and we are going to go through every detail on them, right? So we're not doing a full all 22 breakdown. It's not going to be 70 plays. We're going to pick 2 or 3, and we're going to get real in depth with you about what actually happened on those plays, Coach.
We're going to talk ball, man. I know we live in Colorado. I've never really heard getting X's and OE referred to as crunchy, but if that's what it's called here in Colorado, I'm down. At the end of the day, man, I just want to talk ball. A lot of people don't know this about you, Rob. I learned this about you quickly, was that you coach football. You played football at Hofstra. You were a graduate assistant. You and I speak the same language with regards to the different film technology we've utilized, whether it's Huddle, whether it's Exos. You knew the world. You knew my frustration and fully understood that it's hard when you've been a coach and you have an unbelievable film study set up in your office at the football facility. Right now, I mean, I've kind of just makeshifted it, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of in a good spot, Rob. I got my remote here. It's an old Exos remote bought by the Catapult. It does all the miles per hour and GPS tracking that we see on NFL Next Gen Stats. I don't have a great laser pointer situation, but I got myself a pencil. So if you should go ahead and show that film setup real quick.
You ready for this? Let's
I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I just want to show them that this is how we're going to talk a little bit in terms about, I don't have telestration capabilities, but I do have the ability to point out different things on the screen here. So we're going to,
listen, it's bright orange or yellow rather, that's right. We can get into detail. You can flip ends and get into detail with the pointer.
Yeah.
Coach, you're going to have to deal with some civilian technology here.
I think we're pretty good, man. But like, for example, right now, let's just see what this looks like. If we just give it a little of the old fashioned, you can go a little zoom in. If I really want to see what we're doing, zoom out. I mean, we're doing this thing big, man.
And we'll keep our ugly faces on the screen so you can see us and see what we're thinking as we go through these plays. But like we said, we want to get a little bit, yes, Coach, crunchy here, even though we've only got civilian level. You've been downgraded to our status.
I'm okay.
You don't have the big display screen with the clicker anymore, but I think you did a pretty nice setup there.
Yeah, man. Here's the big deal, man, is that the great ones, and I'm not calling myself a great one because we're not there yet, but the great ones do adapt. They adjust. And here we are. So, hey, I wanted to ask you first before we get into this particular, snap. This is the final scoring drive of the Broncos day. This is what got the Broncos to a position of 34-10, I believe. And then the Raiders get one more score in the fourth quarter, kind of have a semi chance at an onside kick and didn't get it. And the Broncos sealed the win. This to me is a 2-play sequence that led to the second Bo Nix touchdown pass of the day. And the reason I want to show you this, and I want to ask you, Rob, just your horseback observations watching Bo Nix. what have you seen in terms of where Bo Nix looks comfortable from a formational standpoint?
I mean, there's no doubt he likes the Oregon style, right?
Right.
You can see that college influence. And even when he played at Auburn, they still ran a lot out of the shotgun. I mean, there's no doubt he's more comfortable. I don't want to say empty set necessarily, but he's more comfortable from the shotgun. And in these plays, even though he's got to kind of understand the protection, which is not something you normally want to give a rookie quarterback. I mean, there is no doubt that he is kind of finding a groove here. He left some points out there, could have played a little bit better, but I thought he played real well. And I'm excited for you to break this down with this empty set here, Coach.
Well, and that's the piece that I believe, knowing Oregon, I coached against them in 2022, and the amount of times that Oregon would either start out in an empty formational set or motion to the empty set, it was a great indicator of a couple things. First thing, if you have a running back on the field, and I want to point this out right here, this is Jaleel McLaughlin. All right. You got a running back on the field. Immediately, you want to see who's lined up over him. All right. I don't know how well you can see it, but I can see it perfectly. This defender from the Raiders, I'm not going to give them the decency of calling them by name because they are nameless and faceless here in Denver. That is number 56. All right. You know any corners in the National Football League or nickels or even safeties that wear jersey number 56, Rob?
I don't, Coach.
So what would you think? Is this, for a young rookie quarterback, is this an indicator of man coverage or zone coverage?
You don't even have to motion him. You know right off the bat, as soon as you see the 50 all the way split out wide with McLaughlin, you got man coverage.
You got man coverage. And then the other indicator here, so we have Jaleel McLaughlin here lined up. And when we talk football, you talk about the number one wide receiver from furthest outside, and then you count inside. The number 2 receiver, that's Lucas Kroll. He's got a safety down on him, all right? And then now you see the corners bumped inside on Josh Reynolds, and then a backer kind of are there. That you can see these backers are 2-on-1. That's number 41. I know his name, but I'm not going to say it. But you can see very clearly that there is nobody, I'm talking nobody, who has the ability to bring any extra amount of pressure. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 down linemen. You see right here, there's a man defender. So Bo Nix immediately knows there is zero threat of pressure to his left side. The only threat of pressure is potentially one of these 3 guys that are lined up right of center. Really easy for Bo Nix to send his offensive line slide from the right guard, right center, right guard, and right tackle to the right side. 3 jet scat protection. All right. So the number side goes to where Bo would be hot, meaning he would have to throw a side adjust or have an answer for an unblocked guy and empty because you don't have a running back in the backfield. 3 jet scat means the offensive line, and 3 is meaning an odd number. So the offensive line is actually sliding to the right, which is an even number, away from the side that the quarterback would be hot in. This is a very easy picture for Sean Payton to dial up for Bo Nix. And
now,
it
Coach,
also go ahead.
You do have, I want to point out, you have your backup center in there, right? That's Forsythe, I believe, on this drive.
Yeah, not to mention that not only is Forsythe the backup center, he also lived in this empty world, Bo Nix, at Oregon. Was Bo Nix's center in 2022, actually the year that I coached against. So two of the 11 players I coached against in that 22. I don't think Troy Franklin was on the field after the play.
Should we ask you what the final score of that game was, Coach, or should we just move on to?
I mean, we lost by a lot, yeah, but we lost by a lot more to Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies that year. Anyway, right. A completely different discussion.
So is Forsythe making that call to send the line to the right, or is that a Bo Nix call, even though he's a rookie quarterback, because you got a backup center?
In the West Coast offensive system, the center will immediately get up there based off the original play call in the huddle. He'll get up there and he will declare either where the slide is going to, or he will declare there's a huddle call, which this one right here most likely is 3 jet scat. And then the quarterback has trump authority. All right. He has the ability to say, no, I actually want you to slide the offensive line, meaning the center, left guard, and left tackle, to go for 3 for whoever could come on the left-hand side. There's no reason for any trump on this picture because you're going to slide this one to the field. So you have 3 for any 3 that would come from this look from the defense. All right. So now let's talk about the scheme here. All right. This is a beautiful scheme. Zone answer is to the field. Okay. The zone answer is going to be called a spacing concept. You see the tight proximity split here. The number 3 receiver, once again, remember it's 1, 2, 3 from outside in. The number 3 receiver is in a bit of a kind of a bunch-like formational tweak, and that would be a huddle call, one of those very long huddle calls that we know. But Josh Reynolds and Lil Jordan Humphrey are in proximity to one another. What that would tell me if I'm a defender is some type of switch release is going to happen. So Josh Reynolds most likely going inside. Oh, I just drew on my screen. There we go. It's good. I'm back. Into it. I'm in mid-season form here.
You are.
So we'd have Lil Jordan Humphrey in some way, shape, or form, meaning, Josh Reynolds would be inside releasing and Lil Jordan Humphrey would be outside releasing. That's just an indicator pre-snap. All right. So the spacing concept, you're going to get number 3 receiver directly over the football. He's running a sit route. All right. 6 yards over the football. You'll see Lil Jordan Humphrey. He's running what they call the pivot route, which is 6 to 8 yards on this track, widen and then sit. So there should be good little lateral distribution in the event this is a zone look. This is Lucas Krull. He's going to clear this area. He's a bit of a bonus player in spacing. Spacing typically is a 3-man type of a concept. He's going to run the inside fade to clear the space. And then outside, you have Jaleel McLaughlin running a 6-yard locked hitch. So you would, against zone, what you'd essentially have is the ability to go one inside to your spot over the ball. So every time a quarterback throws a ball that's directly over the center right now, everybody's like, oh, he just checks it down. No, that's actually his number 1 in the spacing progression. That's not a check down. So if I hear people say, oh, you're just checking it down all the time. No, that's actually his number 1 in a spacing concept for a zone answer. Okay. Number 2 would be the pivot route, which will be Lil Jordan Humphrey against zone. And number 3 would be the hitch. And the idea is that this inside fade might soften up the coverage just to help a little bit and then have this as a late number 3 outside. But Bo Nix already knows this is man. No need to think anything of whatsoever about, do I need to work my zone answer, the spacing concept? So what we have here, what's up?
Forget all 4 of them. Go up top to your one-on-one matchup.
So you got our guy Cortland Sutton here. He's manned up over some jamoke from the Raiders, some corner that's way more athletic than you or I will ever be. But they took the L 34-18. Doesn't matter. All right. So you got a go route here. Simple. All right. If you're looking at this picture, Rob, and you got a go route one-on-one right here, outside of the corner, okay, you're going to beat the corner with ball placement. Cortland Sutton with his release. Who's the only person that could get in the way of stopping this particular look?
You got a single high safety that you need to use your eyes to manipulate, coach.
Amen to that. And the beautiful thing about it, in this little bonus spacing concept route, you end up having the 4th bonus guy is actually running a vertical route, which is beautiful because now you can stare down that vertical route. You can manipulate that safety's eyes and body language. You can get him to open up and weave back to the middle of the field even more. And now you just are playing one-on-one pitch and catch football outside, which is what you're trying to create here.
So everybody knows you as a coach, of course, but you were also a quarterback. I don't know that everybody knows that. So as you're sitting back there, knowing that you're throwing to Cortland Sutton and you're trying to move that safety, coach, how long are you staying on that other side? Really any route over there, but particularly in this case, the vertical. How long are you keeping your eyes there before you go back and decide if you're going to throw a back shoulder or if he's got him beat and you're going to throw it over the top?
Well, really it's long enough, and it could be just even the stripe of your helmet. That's the beautiful thing about the Broncos' glorious throwback 1977 stripe on their helmet, is that stripe of the helmet itself, and it might even be for a nanosecond. Which is a coaching speak word for just a quick blink of the safety can ultimately move the safety off his spot, create enough space. The other thing that if you're Bo Nix right here and I played the quarterback position, I call this depth of the safety here. That's Pro Bowl depth. Okay. When I say Pro Bowl depth, think old school Pro Bowl. Think about, it's just a bombs away type of a contest. So safeties were playing 22 to 35 yards deep in single high coverage. That's what we would in the coaching world, and players understand it. A Pro Bowl depth safety is not at 12, 13 yards involved in the run fit whatsoever. His job is to not get beat deep over the top. All right, so let's let this thing play out. I'm going to make sure we're clicked correctly here. All right, here we go. All right, so look at Bo. Initially, eyes right on brand. Okay, I'll take that back a sec so you can see it.
Yeah. You can see that white face mask turn right to the right.
Yep. So Bo doing a really good job. Let's see what the safety then does. Okay, he's holding his ground pretty good. All right, but just enough weaving back towards the field here to where now, what do you have on the sideline? You've got space. You've got a mismatch, at least in size, and that's Cortland Sutton on the one-on-one matchup. One thing that I do love about Bo Nix, and this is any quarterback I've ever coached, is throw proximity balls, not the perfect lead him in stride type throw, the proximity, and it's even a 50-50 type throw into the airspace of Cortland Sutton. You'll hear me on the radio say, throw it into the halo, okay? I think about it from a video game perspective. If you're playing Madden 25, typically there's like on any type of role-playing game, there's a halo around a character. You want to throw it into that halo and allow that receiver to go up, get big, high point the football, and leave enough space to let that ball drop inbounds and give that receiver a chance to drag 2 feet. It's a tremendous catch. It was a defensive penalty. Obviously, it was declined, but just enough out of Bo Nix right there. And we'll go back to see it. Watch his eyes. His eyes are opening up to the big field. Lucas Kroll again on that inside fade route. Just enough movement out of that safety to be able to create that one-on-one space.
Okay, there's 2 things I want to ask you about here, Coach. First thing is, I don't think when we talk about this with media, we talk enough about situation. Okay, 3rd and 5 here. And yes, that's absolutely the right call in terms of Bo on the field deciding where he was going to go. That's why you've got a zone beater on one side and a man beater on the other. But taking a shot on 3rd down takes some cojones. So not only do I want you to talk about the situation a little bit, but also how important it is if you're going to throw a 50-50 ball that you have a guy like Cortland Sutton. If that's little Jordan Humphrey, are you still making the same throw? Or are you trying to do something different? Like maybe if you know it's man coverage, trying to pick up that 1st down with your feet.
You bring up a very valid point. And one thing that I left out from this concept, because essentially it was spacing to the field, and I had introduced the concept as X go into the boundary, which the X is typically your single receiver, your big physical frisbee catching dog type guy, and that's Cortland Sutton in this offense. The actual play call here, and I actually see this on the freeze frame. Do you notice anything weird? And it might be tough to see, but with Bo Nix's left hand right there.
I don't.
He's giving the hang loose sign. All right. As he's looking to the right, this concept is actually called X signal spacing. All right. And you typically tag who's running the spacing route. I'm guessing that Josh Reynolds is formationally, he's the Z receiver. So this would be X signal, Z spacing out of some iteration of 4x1 empty, which is a little bit of a dickum formation for a defense, because you do get the overshift. You make them declare, and you get their intentions, zone or man. All right. So what X signal Z spacing is that Bo Nix is going to take into account field position, situation of the game, and leverage of the corner. And also potentially, is there any safety help over the top? If there was a too high safety look, Bo Nix would not be signaling the go route, because that would ultimately lead to a potential interception-worthy play with a safety and playing a half of the field right here to get over the top of the go route. If it had been too high safeties, this play right here would have probably been signaled as a slant, because slants beat cover 2. That's the bottom line. It's really your only individual cut that does beat cover 2. Cover 2 would be the corner on the outside, playing the half, typically outside leverage, safety at 14-ish yards playing the deep half. The voided area would be the slant window right over here. Okay.
And so that would be a signal when Bo Nix comes out. It's essentially an option or a kill, if you will.
Yeah. So he has options. This is just hand signals. So this is nothing communicated verbally. Right. You can already see that the offensive line is very clear. Man block here, because this is on the called jet side. This would be 3 jet scat. Man here. And then you have, this would be a Rob call, which is a 3-man slide for whichever 1, 2, 3, 4, whichever one of these guys comes, and you can see it, 4 of them can't come from a coverage perspective, you'd be short. So you just get into a 3-man slide and let's let this thing play out from a protection standpoint. But you can see that. See the hang? I don't know if you can see it. There's a hang loose right there. Let's watch Bo. It's either a hang loose or like kind of 2 fingers.
Yeah,
There's some action going on right there with his fingers.
And he does it specifically when he's looking the other direction too, which is smart. I mean, that is smart.
He's not telegraphing it. He's not saying, oh, hey, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? And that's something that they've repped a ton. This is a base staple concept in the West Coast offense. All right. So you can see right here. So while Alex Forsyth appears to be staying square, he's identified that the most dangerous blitz threat is number 41. All right. Because he's a known linebacker. He has 0 coverage responsibility. He could be blitzing, or in this case, he could be spying. You hear the term spy all the time. The spy here means that if the quarterback takes off and runs, he's got to be responsible for the quarterback to at least provide help so it's not an explosive run. All right. So Forsyth leaves a little bit of hand presence for the A-gap rush. You can see Ben Powers, a jump set, very vertical, doesn't get too horizontal in his set. And then once Forsyth sees that Powers has his man at least 50-50, he's going over now to help his right guard. And that's the slide side I was talking about. ROB means 3 offensive linemen, center, right guard, right tackle, are in a 3-man slide to the right-hand side. That's what Rob call would mean, at least in a vernacular in the West Coast offense I've been associated with.
And that could be any 3-letter R word, right? Rip.
Yeah, Roy. I've used Roy and Lou, Rob and Liz, stuff along those lines. And then like a 4-man slide would be from against the 3-down front, would be left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. And I've used rock to go to the right, starting with the left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. And I've used lake going to the left, which would be a 4-man slide based off the look. Okay. So you can see, let's go back to the eyes again. And like, this is I would say this is a over exaggeration. Once again, rookie quarterback. Understanding safeties are damn smart players in the National Football League. A bit of an over exaggeration on the look off. The funny thing is when I watch a lot of people break down film, right? Everybody says, well, he stared and worked this side and came off of it. His eyes are all over the place. No, this was intentional. He knew exactly. You can tell how in rhythm he is. He's going back here. Now let's talk about the ball placement right here. Okay. I talked about the halo in the National Football League, and we borrowed this in college football. Many teams have a red line painted on their grass practice field. Okay. The red line is typically just about 4.5, 5 yards away from the sideline. That would be right about on this trajectory right here. The red line is where the receiver is taught to hold their ground to allow for the throw to drop outside of the red line until you hit the boundary. All right. So I would say that Cortland Sutton on this route, and we'll see the best we can see right here, the earliest, he's fighting the friction of that corner to hold that red line, thus creating the opportunity for Bo Nix to drop that football slightly outside. Maybe a little tiny, some good handwork right there from Cortland Sutton. Ball drops in perfectly. Great throw there from Bo Nix. Is that an elite arm talent throw? Not necessarily. Is that a smart, great football throw? Hell yes, it is.
That feels like a Peyton Manning type placement to me, Coach. Right? Like the ball is just in the exact spot you want it to be if you are taking into account that he has held his ground on that red line. That is exactly where you want that football to be.
Okay, and then let's just look at the footwork here. There's 1. There's 2. You can see it getting it in there fairly clean. All right. Okay, so my point here, almost my thesis statement, coming out of my evaluation, boots on the ground at Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl, Bo Nix struggled a little bit. Open day, Michael Penix Jr. making a lot of wild throws. I'm just going to be very candid. It was not close on that day. The next day was all red zone emphasis. And that's where Bo Nix came alive. I actually interviewed him at the combine during his media availability at the podium about his success in the red zone, both at Oregon and then also at the Senior Bowl. So that's where he stood out. What is it about the red zone? and he gave an answer that essentially said, I'm glad you noticed that. I'm glad you've seen that. It's an area where I understand that my pinpoint accuracy in shorter areas and the details that are required at the position and of all 11 matter that much more. Why? If you see right here, the space decreases massively. You get inside the red zone. A lot of people call the red zone 25 and in. I call outside the 20 up to the 40. I call the high red zone. That's kind of shot down. You get your wheels, you get your double moves, slant and goes. Those kinds of downfield shots. You have real estate. I call the red zone from the 20 till about you get inside. I typically like to say about the 7-yard line. So it's a 13-yard area, and then the 7 and in up until you get to the 2 is the tight red zone. And then 2 and in is the goal line. All right. That's how I broke it down on my call sheet. I make play calls based off that field spacing. All right. So this right here is a West Coast staple. All right. You're in 12 personnel, although we know that really Nate Adkins he's a kind of a jack of all trades player. He can function as a fullback. There was even early on in the season, there was some talk that Adkins was going to, take away the role for Michael Burton in this offense. But, Sean Payton was going to keep his guy, Michael Burton from the New Orleans Saints. His guy's been with him. But you can see Nate Adkins here. He looks like he's a motion player, right? His eyes are inside. He's watching the foot of the quarterback, which is typically under center, where you do give the indicator of motion. Okay, now you see the defense. You're going to get some type of indicator, possibly of man or zone. All right. Doesn't necessarily look like it could be man, but it ends up playing out as such. And I'd say I would be willing to call this some form of match cover 3, the way it played out.
So, Coach, before we move on, tell me what your first indicator is that it's man, because a layman looking at this, I'll call myself a layman, as soon as I see him motion across and I don't see anybody coming with him, that's your first indication that it's zone. What's your first indicator that it's man here? Well,
you got to think about where's the edge of the defense here, okay? First off, this is a bare front, and that'd be my indicator, a bare front. I'll show you we'll get to that, but the 3 technique, the nose, and the other 3 technique are covering up the guard, center, and guard of this structure, okay? So this is a bare front structure, 2 overhang players. So this is a 3 technique. Any shade that's outside of a guard is a 3. Any head up player, which I believe this is, I'll take the end zone camera, is a 0 technique. And then any outside leverage again is a 303. When you have a 303 with double overhangs, my warning bells immediately go off. Some type of man coverage is coming, because this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-man hit. All right. There's 5 guys that are going to be involved in stopping the run and or rushing the passer. Okay. So against this look, a 303 look, the percentages that is some type of hybrid match man coverage, and ultimately who ends up taking the fullback, the H in motion, ends up being this safety. You can see he's starting to widen out. His eyes turn into a man look. But my biggest indicator on this particular look for man or zone is the leverage of the corner. All right. He is outside leverage, eyes completely on Reynolds. And with the motion, he doesn't soften up and all to create the coverage edge to the defense. He's got Reynolds man to man. So the motion indicator would be that for me.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to run a concept here that is famously known as Spider 2. That's the protection. All right. It's a power pass. All right. The protection from Matt Peart all the way down is a full gap, full slide protection. Right tackle has the inside B gap. Right guard has the inside A gap. Center has the backside A gap. Left guard has the backside B gap. And then Garrett Bull's the left tackle. He's got the backside C gap. Okay, so who's going to be responsible for the edge here? It's going to be the dang tailback. It's Jaleel McLaughlin. And in Spider 2 protection, anything that shows outside of the tackle's butt cheek, his right cheek, the tailback's got to take a J course. The J course means like the letter J where it's inside out and curves. And then he is going to cut any man that shows off the edge. And the quarterback is going to flash the power fake, just like so. Here comes that J course. Cut the man down inside thigh board. Just do enough to get his hands down. All right? Do enough to get his hands down. So we talked about that protection. Spider 2. Flash fake. full gap, full slide, leave one off the edge for the tailback. Sometimes they might bring two. Tailback's responsible for cutting the most dangerous inside of the two that would come off that tackle's outside butt cheek. All right, now
the other one is the quarterback's responsibility, right, Coach?
Yes, and typically, if you've ever watched John Gruden talk about the concept Spider 2Y banana, okay, the banana is basically it's a crappy corner route by the tight end, the Y. This is not Spider 2Y banana. This is Spider 2 Z cross. Okay, so now the Z is running a deep crossing route. The X is going to cross literally with him, create some traffic violations here. If they're trying to pass off in some red zone kind of bracket type coverages, you're going to create some issues here. Now, the one thing that I would be curious to see, if you were in film study with Sean Payton, Davis Webb, Joe Lombardi, watching this cut up, John Gruden on any Spider 2 concept, do you remember that when he talked with Andrew Luck about the Spider 2Y banana play that was called against USC? I coached in that game in 2011. What did John Gruden say that the read is for the quarterback on Spider 2? Do you remember?
I don't remember, Coach.
It is flat to the flat to the flat. You are calling this play to throw it to this fullback. All right. Now, would you say that fullback's relatively NFL open?
Yeah, I would say yes, but he's not going to pick up the touchdown here, Coach.
Yeah, well, but here's the deal with rules, man. We're talking rules. A rule is a rule is a rule, and it's first and goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Bo Nix is being Ferris Bueller here. He's telling the principal flat to the flat to the flat, my ass.
Right.
You know what I'm going to go do? I'm going to go play a little hooky. I'm going to go look for the touchdown. I'm going searching for it. So here we go.
Now on offense, we call this a rub, right, Coach? This is not a this is not a pick. This is a rub that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and it ended up being fairly clean. There was nothing that could have been considered offensive PI here
on this one.
On this one, yeah. But you would ideally like to create some type of natural. I always call them traffic violations, traffic issues, right? Yeah,
just a little rub. So nothing wrong with that.
I want to talk about the detail here on Josh Reynolds' route, okay? Because this was a beautiful throw by Bo Nix. NFL, this is wide ass open. And it's because of the technique used by Josh Reynolds. All right. What we call this technique is a stair step. Use it only versus man coverage. What a stair step is that you know that your route design is a crossing route to get to this general area of the field. But in doing so, he doesn't know I'm trying to go there. So I want to get my inside release. And then I want to straighten up. See that? That's a straighten up. So he didn't just run the line back to this pylon. He went inside release, straighten up. What did that DB have to then protect for?
He's looking for the throw it over his top.
Yeah, he doesn't know where he's going to play it, right? So he can no longer stay on that inside hip. Let's watch that stair step, man. It is beautiful. Watch this. Inside, stair step, snap it off. So then on the stair step, it literally looks like a stair. Okay? It's going to end up being up and then snap it off.
And that's not only is that beautiful route running, but it's got to be a little bit of feel too, right, Coach? Because he's got to feel that he's got to step on him there and then make that real hard snap off to the corner route.
Yeah, it's highly repped. You know, one of the biggest things with stair steps, receivers, and I'd say young receivers, even at certainly at the college level, even young NFL receivers, they try to stair step versus zone. And zone coverage, because they don't have the coverage recognition or don't feel the presence of a man defender on them. So then they wrongly stair step and ultimately create some form of unnecessary body movement that throws off the timing of the quarterback for a zone look. Make sense? Yeah. So the recognition of man coverage, and then he's going to go into his route toolbox and be like, oh yeah, stair step. I'm wide open. I got this son of a gun. And that's exactly what he did here. All right, well, hey, if you watch this from the end zone copy, you can see that stair step even more beautifully. All right, I want to identify this front. Yeah, look at that. That there is a quintessential bear front. All right. Yeah. So you got the zero technique. Some people call this a double eagle. Some people call it, this is the old bear, Chicago Bears. This is Chicago Bear defense from Buddy Ryan back in the day under Dicka, right? Big goal line, big red zone. A lot of teams are mixing up these types of looks. But when I said 303, that 4-point stance, that means he has 2 feet and 2 hands in the dirt. And he's just in that gap enough to know that his intention is to be a B-gap player. He is not playing in over that tackle. He's playing more in the gap towards shading the guard. Same thing over here. You got that. That's a great look at that 4-point root hogger stance. That's a 3 technique, a 3 technique. And then when you have a nose tackle head up on a center, that's called a 0 technique. And then the great state of Colorado, our area code, we call this a 303 front. All right. And any 303 front, you're always going to have 2 overhang players. And that's these 2 outside backers right here. This is a 52 bear. And then you see this safety starting to a bit of a rotation down here. And then, like I said before, spider 2 protection. You're going to free release the fullback in the flat. You want it to look like power. Let's see. Boom, you're snapping it. Big play action fake. Fullback's open, but Bo turned it down, being Ferris Bueller. And then you have full gap, full slide, tight ends on the shallow cross, Reynolds on the deep cross, and you got Sutton on the other cross right there to create some type of issue, which you did. But that stair step is what makes this go. Well, watch Reynolds right there, straighten, snap, wide open.
It's a beautiful job by Meinertz too, Coach, to get over to that nose tackle. Not to spend too much time on the O-line, but I mean,
always spend time on the O-line, fella.
I mean, and he's got Forsyth there lending a hand, but when you're talking about a full gap, full slide, getting over to that nose tackle, I mean, I think that's a nice little protection there.
Yeah. What's interesting is back in the day of the original Spider 2, you wouldn't drag that hand on the right side. You would just be immediately going to your inside gap. And I think that this is a bit of the evolution because of all the different movement, the defensive fronts, all the different twist games is make sure that like at right here, Forsyth posts that just enough to allow Miners to physically get over before he moves back to his inside gap.
And then I want to talk a little bit about personnel here, just like we did with the last one, Coach. Let's get a little radio here. Let's come out of the crunchy a little bit. When they signed Josh Reynolds this offseason, I can speak for myself. I don't know how you reacted to it on air, but it was just kind of an from everybody. It was like, all right, well, you needed another guy. All right, Josh Reynolds. He dropped a couple balls in the NFC Championship. From what you're telling me here, this sounds like a real heady veteran move, a real heady veteran route, reading the defense, knowing when to go. And I just kind of want to point out that if you've got that as a rookie wide receiver, if that's Troy Franklin, maybe you're not getting the same kind of route that you had from Josh Reynolds there.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, this was Josh Reynolds' only catch of the day. 1 catch, 9 yards, touchdown. Good work. I was on the air fairly excited about the Josh Reynolds acquisition. Why? Because he was coming from a team that had a ton of success throwing the football. And he had been a part, namely, he was the 3rd receiver. You got Jameson Williams of the Lions and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who might be playing better or at least at the level of any receiver in the National Football League. I just liked that he was a part of a culture that was successfully throwing the football. There's detail involved in that. And he could elevate his status, go from a number 3 to a number 2, or maybe even a number 1, just depending on what type of game, that you're seeing defensively and what it presents. And Josh Reynolds has been that. I'd say the first 2 weeks of the season, Josh Reynolds, he looked like he was the guy, and I think he's going to keep emerging. He's got great speed. He's sneaky big. You think he's kind of slightly built, and then you get up on him. He's got length. I like this acquisition and the route detail that you mentioned. You might not get that, out of Jerry Jeudy a year ago. You might not get that route discipline, the coverage identification that you do from Josh Reynolds, who's been a part of a lot of success in a system that's throwing the ball incredibly, incredibly well in Detroit.
Coach, I don't think you can dead name the wide receivers like that. I don't think you just like you haven't named any of the Oakland Raider players. I don't think you can bring up that name when talking Bronco wide receivers.
I like Jerry Jeudy, man. I'm gonna be honest. I like Jerry Jeudy. I thought it never happened, but you got to think about it. Jerry Jeudy went through 4 offensive systems in his times here.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it was the issue of just no continuity. It is what it is. It didn't work out, but overall, I just think that this 2-play sequence, getting off of the Jerry Jeudy conversation, this 2-play sequence, this shows to me some of the strengths that Bo Nix can build on, that he does have, which is operating out of an empty formation, sees the protection well, gives a really clean picture. I actually wrote a column about that. It was after week 2, after the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Sean Payton didn't go to empty until middle of the second quarter, and that's when Bo Nix started to come alive. And I know this from studying his film and playing against him, coaching against Bo Nix. They loved at Oregon giving him empty, either too empty or out of empty motion looks to be able to identify where the pressure's coming from, what the coverage is, and then he could go to work. I just think Bo likes operating in that more open style of offense. And he's continuing to grow in more the condensed under center world. He did that in 2 plays. And then the second play is a great illustration. Bo Nix is really good in the red zone, man. He's really good in the red zone.
Well, and that's, just to wrap up here quickly, I kind of wanted to get your take because you mentioned on this second play here, he's going a little Ferris Bueller on you, right? It's not exactly the read that you would want him to throw. Yeah, get that clean, coach. What do we do?
Yeah, man, I'm OCD. My OCD world's coming out right there.
It's not exactly the read you'd want him to throw to, but he does. It's a beautiful throw. It's a beautiful route. It's a touchdown. Talk about that Ferris Bueller in him a little bit, which we are seeing on this play, which you saw him argue with Sean Payton about as a head coach. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Full disclosure, I've never coached in the West Coast offensive branch iteration from Sean Payton. All right. So I've coached in the branch that went from Bill Walsh to essentially John Gruden, Bill Callahan, John Gruden, Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw. That's a bit of a different branch than the branch that Sean Payton took off of it. So I can't tell you that they coach Spider 2 protection as flat to the flat to the flat, which means you want to throw the flat no matter what, unless it's just absolutely blanketed and you're going to put the ball in harm's way. But if you have a yard of separation, you have 3 yards of separation, you're pumping that fullback look, which in this case was an H-back in the form of Nate Adkins out on the flat. So I don't want to call him, if he was in the West Coast vernacular and teaching methodology I came from, you would give him a minus on the grade sheet and say, great touchdown pass. That's exactly what you'd say. And I think Bo Nix just recognized he had a lot of protection. He saw man coverage, and maybe in Sean Payton's version of Spider 2, if you have protection, there's no edge pressure, double edge pressure, and you have a man look, you're working your Z cross. That'd be the only thing that I would say. I also think they were up at this point. What was it? 27 to 10, and he's feeling a little froggy. And you're playing with house money at this point in time.
Well, and so that's what I was going to ask you. As the coach, how do you feel about him? You said you'd give him a minus. You'd say good touchdown pass. But in the back of your head, are you concerned maybe that he's ad-libbing a little bit here?
No,
or is it like, no, that's what I want my dog to do?
No, because I like the audacity. I like the courage. If you look back at Sean Payton's New Orleans Saints offenses, I think Drew Brees at times turned down the easy 2-yard completion for the 60-yard bomb to Jimmy Graham or, any of those insane receivers they had back in the day. But I would say this, playing red zone football, this is the Kansas City Chiefs and you're down by 6, right? And my coaching point then, if that's indeed how it is coached, which is flat to the flat to flat, if he's open, you throw it, no questions asked. John Gruden used to coach it as throw it until they throw up. Whether it be the flat to the flat to flat or the hitch on the smash concept, repetition and doing something over and over and over, it ultimately ends up making them overcommit to that fullback. And now all of a sudden your banana route would be open, or in this case, the crossing route. My coaching point to Bo Nix, if I coached it as flat to the flat to the flat, is this: it catches up to you when it catches up to you. You got away with it right here. We're down 6 against Kansas City Chiefs. We need a touchdown. There's a minute and 18 seconds to go. It's 1st and goal on the 9-yard line. Pound that flat, brother. Pound that flat. Get used to it. Don't get bored with it. That would have been a 4-yard gain. Nate Adkins had enough space that right after you flash faked it, you put your back foot in the ground, you rip it. He might break a tackle on that safety who's coming down from space. I mean, he was 6-7 yards deep at the point the ball was snapped, that's not a bad football play. But this one right here, Bo Nix going a little outlandish here, going a little Ferris Bueller, got the fans kind of fired up, didn't it?
I was going to say, I think the fans love to see it, Coach. The coaches might not, but I think the fans like to see it.
Yeah, my guess is they like this snap. I think the way that even Bo Nix doesn't look like he's coming out ready to just pump that flat. I think it's coached that if you get out free access and there's not any edge rushers, you sit in the pocket and you find your Z cross.
All right, Coach. That was fun, man. I had a good time.
Technology was way better than I thought it would be. My only snafu was using this this number 2 pencil and drawing directly on my monitor. We'll make the adjustment.
The lead, Coach. You got to push the lead inside before you get pointing. That, you know what I mean?
Is that how you do it?
Right here? Proper planning prevents poor performance, Coach.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. Well, there's been some weeks where I've wanted to break down some of the defensive pressure looks. The beautiful thing about this NFL Pro All 22 film, I just wake up. I would say this. I don't miss every aspect of coaching. There are times where I miss watching the film the next morning, after a game, and I've been able to do it this NFL Pro All 22, and it's given me the fix, and it's fun to be able to share it with people. So the thing about this program that I want to do with you, Rob, is I don't want to sit there and boringly go over 52 plays. I want to get detailed on 1 or 2 plays that I think really do make an impact on the game. And this particular sequence, this was the dagger, and this was also the momentum that I think put that Broncos Empower Field, environment into a frenzy. And I think it was a huge sequence for Bo Nix's confidence and to put the Raiders away and not allow them to get back into the football game.
100%. Well, listen, if you're late joining us, we're going to do this every week, probably around this time. But if you miss it, it'll live on our YouTube pages. It'll live on our Twitter pages. Come find it. Coach is going to pick the most impactful, most important, most interesting plays from the game each week. We'll hop on here. We'll explain it to you in depth, in detail. So if you want a little bit, I like the term crunchy. I don't know why you don't.
I don't. I'm just going to be honest. I think it's especially with kind of your man bun right now, you got the Avs jersey on, you're a football guy that right now doesn't necessarily look like a football guy. You kind of look a little crunchy. You're looking a little bouldery, man.
Do you want me to come with like a helmet next time, Coach? Like, what do you, you got? I saw you try to put it on and you put your headphones on over top of it last time. I was like, Coach, that is going to break. Going with the Irish on that one. Yeah. We will do this every week. So come find us, the Altitude Film Room. We're going to do a bunch of Broncos stuff. We'll do Broncos, every week after they play the game. We'll get Demps in here. We'll do some basketball too, a little nugget breakdown from time to time as well. But Coach, I know it was a long journey. The viewers don't know, but I just want to acknowledge the long technological journey that you went on to get here with us today. And I appreciate all the time that you put in and a couple dollars too, to make sure that you could do this film breakdown with everybody. It was great to have you here. I appreciate it.
No, thank you too. Thanks for kind of working as best as you could with my lack of resources from a video and production standpoint. But I will say, if you came into my area right now, I can even give you a kind of a mini tour. I mean, there are cords and like cameras, and it is a absolute S show in this setup right here.
And it looked beautiful, and it was informative, and you absolutely crushed it, Coach.
No, I appreciate it. Let's do it again next week, man.
We'll do it again next week, Tuesday, right here. And then make sure you give us a like, follow, subscribe on the YouTube pages, on the social medias, whatever. Give us a like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Coach, we will talk to you next week, dog.
Appreciate you, Rob.